Hey, everybody. Welcome. So great to see you. Thank you for joining us for our Arch behind the scenes of the SEEN Through Horses training experience. This is our in-person experience that builds on the online learning that we have in Arch. And we wanted to have the opportunity just to share a little more information about why and what is this experience and what could you expect and how is it different? And yeah, just share a little bit of our heart and passion behind it. And as well as feel free, this is an opportunity for you guys to ask any comments or questions that you have along the way. We'd love to hear from you as well, and we'll answer those questions. So I'd like to introduce our wonderful panel that we have here today. So we have members of our Arch co-creators team who are also facilitators of the in-person experience. We have Amanda Graham, if you'll raise your hand. Amanda, Ula Fredrickson, Lynn Moore, Fred Bultman, and we also are so excited to welcome Jake Corwin with the National Center for Healthy Veterans. He and his wonderful team have participated in this experience, and thank you, Jake, for joining us to share a little bit of that perspective as well as a participant. And so actually, I think we'll go ahead and start there. Jake, would you share a little bit about your program, your organization, and then, yeah, what brought you to Arch and why you're doing this training and some of your experiences, both for you and your team?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. First of all, this is a great opportunity and just a good opportunity to hang out with you guys because I've gotten to know you all a little bit better and really appreciate your insights and your experience and the depth of knowledge that you guys bring to the table on all of this. So National Center for Healthy Veterans is a residential trauma recovery program for veterans and first responders. We're located in Central Virginia near Lynchburg. And what we focus on is helping veterans heal physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and relationally. So we're really a holistic program. We try to help them sort out their medical issues, their VA correspondence, and the way that the VA interacts often takes a little bit of assistance in navigating. So we try to help them with that, and then just try to help them work through all of their experiences. And it's not necessarily combat trauma. A lot of it is family of origin trauma and stuff that they've carried with them from childhood. And the military lifestyle and experience tends to bring that to the surface. So we just kind of deal with a whole lot of things in one spot. And it's a long-term program, so we get to work with these folks for at least 9 months typically. So it's a very relational program. We get to know them really well, and we get to really work through their stories over a long period of time. We're on a working farm. It's about 340 acres, and a big piece of that is our equestrian program. We knew we wanted to do equine-assisted therapy, equine-assisted learning, coaching. When we started looking at the models, because of the rest of the things that we wanted to do in addition to it, those being training and outside events and just a lot of different things, Arch seemed to be the best fit for our program because it allowed us to really focus on the stories and to work with a variety of clients who may or may not physically be as interactive with the horses or want to ride. And it allowed us to use a lot of different types of horses in that program as well. We have a lot of young horses come through here that are in training, and sometimes some problem horses, and we can use those and set up situations that allow us to really dig into some different aspects of people's stories. So it created a really versatile and just a well-fitted model for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's amazing. And thank you guys for all the work that you do and all the service you provide. And can you share a little bit, about what drew you to take the Arch training and what your experiences were?
Sure. So Carol Young at Healing Strides has been a mentor for all of us on all of this along the way. She's been a great friend and a great help. And she's offered, several of our folks have been down to Amanda's place in North Carolina for some trainings, and then for whatever reason the scheduling had never worked out for me. I had done the online workshops to get my certifications and everything, but I hadn't been able to make an in-person. And then this last workshop that we did at Carroll's, I was able to make it to that one. And you know, for all of our folks, these workshops for me are even the online ones are very recentering. They are an opportunity to refocus. Sometimes we get caught up in the day-to-day. We get caught up in we get kind of lost in the work side of what we do. And it's an opportunity to recenter and remember the why, remember how things are supposed to flow, to look back at the basics, to look back at the foundations, to look back at the keystones, and to say, okay, this is where I need to get better at. This is where I'm doing really well. It's kind of a self-assessment in a lot of ways for me. But in addition to that, not just to recenter, but also to work alongside some of you who have been in this game as long as some of us have been alive. You know, you guys have been helping people heal through horses for years, and to just be able to glean from your wealth of knowledge and to almost in a sense be mentored, honestly, and then to break out into sessions and work one-on-one, face-to-face with people. The onlines are fantastic. I always get a ton of, I always joke because these trainings are often it's like free therapy for 2 days, right? And the onlines are great for that too, but these in-person workshops where you're able to really be with people, to see their emotions, to see their faces, and you really can't hide behind your keyboard as much. Not that we intentionally do that, but I think there's some self-protection when you're working with a bunch of strangers. You can kind of hide behind your keyboard a little bit, but when you're in person, you really can't do that. And that was really what I took away from this past experience. Was I probably got more out of this than I've gotten out of any of the online trainings. I got tons out of the online trainings. They were great, but this was just such a different dynamic. And there were some individual pieces that were unique to me that made it that way, but it was largely because you're interacting with the horses. And I think Arch is powerful in and of itself with the stories, and you can do it with pictures, you can do it with dogs, whatever. But when you're working with the horses, for those of us who are, you know, equestrian minded, there's another level of power to that. And it's a tool in your toolbox. And if you're not using it, then you're not really being as effective as you can be, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. And was there a highlight in the experience for you? I know you mentioned you got a lot of it personally as well as professionally. And was there something in particular that really impacted you in that in-person experience?
Yeah, you've been talking to Carol? I'll come right out and say I got wrecked at that training. It really emotionally impacted me in a big way, because I've really been struggling with some just some personal things and some challenges and some past trauma and just emotional stuff that I've been trying to work out. And there's been a lot of experiences in the last 6 months that have brought that to the surface and really put me in a position. Hang on, let me shut this noise. Sorry about that. Got a lot of traffic noise outside. So a lot of experiences that put me in a position of just needing to work through some of my own emotional insecurities. And there was a point on the last session of the workshop, the last interactive session with the horses. There was actually a horse there that I had had in for training. And as soon as, we had probably close to 30 people there, and 30 people in different groups walk out into this paddock, small paddock. And I'm about 10, 12 feet from this horse, and she raises her head, looks at me, and comes straight over to me, puts her head in my chest. Well, that in and of itself was impactful. That one actually made me think, okay, is this approval from this horse? Is she remembering me and remembering that she had a good experience with me, or is this just she's a very well-rounded, experienced therapy horse, and this is what she does. So then we let him out into a big paddock, and we all 30 of us went out into the big paddock, and the horses all went to the far end, and I stayed with my group on this end, and I watched the horses out there. And within about 5 minutes, that horse had zigzagged her way from green patch of grass to green patch of grass to green patch of grass, avoiding every other person in that field, and came right back to me and stuck her nose on my chest again. So yeah, that one, you can't do that without the horse. You can't do that without that character being the unpredictable and unknown entity that it is. Without their empathy and their ability to read the situation and read the inside of the people, or inside of the clients, there's no way to factor that in without the horse.
Wow, thank you, Jake. And yeah, I think that's a incredible segue into why do we do this, and why did we start an in-person experience on top of the online foundation. And I think I might have forgotten to introduce myself. I'm Lynn Thomas. I'm also one of the co-creators of Arch. And yeah, I'd love to, we'd love to start sharing with you guys. So the team here, the co-facilitator team here, has been involved in doing this kind of work with incorporating horses for mental health, personal development, organizational development for a lot of years, well over 20 years, each person. We've also all been involved in training practitioners and training facilitators over a lot of years. And so we have had a background and experience with different ways of training, different ways of being trained, supporting one another in that journey of learning, and how we can best support our clients. And when we started Arch, which was just in 2021, that's where we gathered together and said, we want to do something different. And we want to take all this experience that we've had over the years to really kind of delve into how can we best learn ourselves, and how can we also best support other facilitators, and how to make as much of an impact as we can as we incorporate horses for the different types of services we involve. And so I'd love to start turning it over to you guys on the co-facilitators team to start sharing about what has driven you to start this training experience within Arch, and what impact you're seeing it has on yourself, and how you're supporting other practitioners. So do you want to raise your hand? Who wants to go first? I was going to call us up. There we go. I thought choice oriented. Okay. Thank you, Ula. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you for the trauma-informed approach, Lynn. I was worried to get called on, so I volunteered. Well, I thank you, Jake, for sharing that part of your story at the training, or at the workshop in, I'm sorry, Strides, something. Can't remember.
Yeah, Healing Strides of Virginia. Carol Young. It's a wonderful host.
Yeah. So if I am to share my why, I want it to follow your story, Jake, because that story made me feel all of the feels, right? Like it was very meaningful. It was an experience that you can't get anywhere else, like you said, Jake. And I have many whys why I'm with Arenas for Change, and why I'm doing this work, incorporating horses in mental health and professional development. But your story is a big why I keep loving this work and keep doing this work, because every time we enter into the horses space, something like that happens. And that is not to minimize your story, because that was profound and unique, but it comes so freely. The horses are so generous with their insight and their energy when we hold space in a way that they can show up. And we often walk away from sessions like, whoa, that was wild. Like you have this whole body experience because of being in that energy with the horses. And so your story is my why. And my other whys is this group of people, including Annie and Sharon. We have known each other for many, many years, and working together and creating together is a privilege and a joy. And not only this group of people, but also the community that Arenas for Change has called in. It's a beautiful community that I look forward to interacting with every time, whether it's on our community call twice a month or in person. In person, of course, is always a favorite because you have more of a full experience, I think, where, my body is more involved. But I would say the stories like Jake's and the communities that we attract and that we get to interact with, those are my whys, why I keep doing this.
Can I go ahead and piggyback on that? Everything Ula said. First of all, I didn't realize we were talking about how old we are and where all our gray hair come from. So just thank you, Jake, for bringing that up. We have been around for a while.
Make myself feel younger.
But everything Ula was saying, I think I can just say ditto to. To add to that, I think what I love about the training, right, the in-person training, is that we have that flexibility of really offering this experience, right? An experience. It's not we're coming in as experts, because even though we've been doing this quite a while, right, we don't have all the answers. Right? We can work to create that space like we do in our sessions in this work, create that space and hold the bowl for the miracles to happen, the horses to step in, and where we can be with. One of our key things with Arch is being with, and it's not expert mode. So we have an idea in the training, right, where these are things we want to make sure we cover and we impart, right, with everyone that's there in attendance. However, the way in which we do it is in an experience way. So people come to it. You mentioned personal, professional kind of development, and its ability to deepen your experience so that as facilitators, we can then be more with our clients when we go back doing it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's a key piece for me, is that we can create a space where we're imparting knowledge, but yet still learning with you. And it's a inspiring, empowering, personal development, professional development, all in one. And you leave in a very different space than you started 2 days before. Each workshop too that I've been a part of is just organic in that way, right? So it picks up and takes on the personality, the story of that group that's there, and we go with that story, and it's fascinating and honoring to be there every step of the way. So I would just say that for now.
Well, I'll step up here. Are you hearing an echo when I'm talking? You are?
It's not too bad, Amanda. So go ahead and I'll see if I can do anything.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you work on it on your end. I think I would echo everything Lynn Moore said, along with everything Ula said. But I think for me, the whole idea of experiential learning means that we are learning together. So there's information and content shared in a way that is not expert. We are bringing our experience, our learning, and sharing it. And so the purpose of these in-person trainings to be able to provide further learning and hands-on connections, especially engaging with the horses. And the experiential part is because we are not only learning content and practicing, we are, by the nature of it, we're practicing as facilitators. We're also practicing being clients so that our other facilitators learning can practice with us. And it's possible, I think, to go through that experience without being changed. And I think that was so much of what I heard in your story, Jake, and had a chance to witness since I was fortunate enough to be a facilitator with Lynn Moore at the Healing Strides of Virginia event. But I think further than that, I've always been drawn to community. And what I find with these trainings with art is that not only do we share skills and learn together, but we create a unique community, which becomes part of the larger Arenas for Change community. So I think I'll stop there and see if anybody else wants to jump in.
Well, and I will share, Amanda, I don't know, you're here twice, so you're having double the impact, and it's twin. We usually talk about twin Lynn's, but now we have twin Amandas. So I don't know if that's impacting your mic, but I'm just letting you know you're here two times. So
I would love to figure out how to do this, how to clone myself. So
we were just
after this, can we talk, Amanda?
Well, I just removed myself from the stage. Did that help with the echo or no?
A little bit. I think maybe you're logged in twice could be a wonderful thing to discover and explore. But yeah, we were literally just talking about how to clone ourselves, which is really cool because we're here in a story. So Arch is about a story focused framework is one of our key elements. And we'll share a little bit more about that. But we're in the story of this live stream, and it is, now the element of twin Amandas is coming to
I'm so honored.
So anyway, Fred, do you have some thoughts you'd like to add to?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks. And I like what you were saying, Amanda. It was amazing. I was writing a note about why as facilitator and why as participant when you said we're both facilitators and clients. It was like synchronous. And I think I was thinking about, us sharing our why and how we got here and why certain things are here and part of the structure. And I also think it's good to lean into like what is inspiring or helpful or what makes it worthwhile for somebody to spend the time and money to go away for 2 days, where in the last 5 years or so we have leaned into a lot of the other ways to connect and learn with technology. And so I think that Jake mentioned this too, but the horses are, not only do we have a different type of connection when we're all in the same room, but it's very horse-like in a way. And I think the horses illustrate it and then also help us with our own connections. So the nonverbal communication, kind of the energetic exchange, you can feel when something might be tight or loose, or the difference between excited and anxious and relaxed and distracted. These are things that we have a sense of in our bodies and in sharing space. And the horses are really good at bringing us to that. And it's also their lane of communication for us. And so I think that the Arch framework and these in-person training workshops have really helped us elevate the horse like you mentioned, many of us have been doing this for many years, and I think we still found a way to kind of look at the horse's role as a peer, as a co-facilitator in some new ways that I think made their voice and their impact even more present than it already was. And I think it's worth saying that whether somebody is a horse professional, whether they're integrating horses into their practice or not, I think that listening to horses in these experiences is a way that supports the art of listening, whether you're listening to horses or other people or clients. Is that I think it's really helped both being a facilitator and a participant in both ways. I think it's really helped me frame how to hold space for people and myself and to let the story unfold. And I think that the horses show us that every time, that they connect and ground and help in a way that's very unique, and also something that we can do and we can learn from them even when we're not with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Fred. And, so when we started Arch, and just to kind of build off of that, one of our key values was that first of all, we started Arch because we love learning with each other and we love deepening our skills. And we do. I mean, being surrounded by different experienced people and actually non-experienced people, we learn so much and we love that process. And so then our next value is we really wanted to make this accessible, that people can obtain the learning without it breaking your pocketbook. There's so many wonderful trainings out there. And so we wanted this to be able to enhance the great work that people are already doing, the training you may have already gotten, and how can that deepen it? How can that enhance or expand the work you're already doing? And so we started off with our online process first for that accessibility. Of course, that was also 2021, where things were still kind of a little chaotic in the world. And then we started, because we, like these guys are saying, we love practicing in person. There's a whole different experience with that. And when we started doing this, it was, like you were saying, how can we really experience it? And how our framework is based on stories we share. And when we look at experiences as a story through a story lens, we can get a lot of information that can help expand stories. It can help us organize processes when we look at sessions as a story, as we help our clients look at their experiences as a story. So in an in-person training, you have all these people coming with their individual personal stories, like you shared, Jake. They're coming with their individual professional stories. We're coming together, which makes a group story. And then we have the training itself and some of the skill sets and things we want to practice within that story. And we're bringing all these stories within stories. And how can we hold that and allow everybody to experience all those different things going on at the same time? And we have the horses stories and the environment and the location itself story. So how do we hold all that and have this experience where people can really feel like they are embodying and soaking in and truly experiencing how this can work? And so that's what we've really worked to create, and having it in 2 days, which helps with people's time and cost. But also we found that having that online preparation really gets us in that space to have this in-person time, that we really maximize this in-person time, and where we get to experience multiple levels of watching how the facilitators would take a client through a process using the framework, watching, then going out and practicing yourself and being a client, being a facilitator, being a viewer, and having that process and having all those things happen at the same time and holding that. So I don't know if anyone has anything they want to add to that, and then we'll also move. We have some questions that we can start addressing as well. So what are some highlights for you guys on how we've created this space to have this kind of experience that maybe is a little different than what you might experience elsewhere?
Well, I had one comment I wanted to share, and just sort of expand on what you were saying about maximizing the time together as this online component is a complement to in-person, and in-person is a complement the other direction. And that when you said maximize, it just made me think that I wanted to share. It also lets us walk. It lets us take time and have space, because we don't have we don't have to teach the entire front to back framework. There's a familiarity already. And then we can meet each group and kind of get a feel for what do you want to lean into? What do you want to spend more time on? What needs support? What needs practice? But I really like what it's done to the pace. And I think horse people relate that having an opportunity to not be pressured and not be asking for speed, and instead be inviting sort of connection and deepness is really nice. And pace and having the ability to take your time is really valuable.
I'll go ahead and build on that a little bit. Thinking about the online training and getting that done ahead of time, and honoring how people learn, right? Some people, or the pace on which they want to move through that, if they want to watch it multiple times, if that, it's not a one time get through it and done. It's like, take it maybe in chunks and watch some videos that enhance different things, or read or reflect. It incorporates a lot of different things in that online foundation training that we ask everyone who's coming to the in-person to have completed before they come. So that does free us up to then it's all about application, right? It's all about experiencing and application and letting it soak in, and being able to, with that story building for that workshop in that organic way that I mentioned before, we can shift things around and maybe add in experience around this aspect of the framework. When another workshop we might hold that till the second day, and just really move and flow together because we're not in there trying to get content, like content, and people are writing down notes and trying to, they're having their experience. Yes, some are taking notes, but it's in a different way, in a different pace, like you said, Fred.
Yeah, love that. Hi, Pete.
Hi, Pete.
Good to see you.
Good to see you all. I'm sorry, I've been on a tractor a little bit this morning. So.
Video bombing.
He's on actual work duty today.
If I'm not too echoey, if you can tolerate this, I'll make a couple of comments. Yeah. So I can totally agree, Lynn, with this notion of meeting the group where they are. And Fred, you mentioned that too. I had the privilege of offering this in-person workshop training with Sharon Boyce in South Africa recently. And then 2 weeks later, had the opportunity to go to Virginia with Lynn Moore and offer the training workshop in Virginia. And they were very different. People were in different places when they arrived in terms of experience and questions. And we were able to meet them without feeling like we have to rush through and get to this by 2:30. We were really able to focus on flow. That's one of our keystones, is natural flow. And so when we have the in-person training workshops, we pay a lot of attention to the flow and the pace, as you said, Fred, and how the horses help us know, the right pace for this particular group.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, I definitely, we hope that as participants, you guys feel not only that you leave with incredible tools that will enhance the work that you do and enrich the work that you do. And like we said, that you leave with an experience. And so that we're learning about story and a story framework, while at the same time we're in a story. And that has been one of the things that have been a highlight for me in this, is that pacing, like you were just saying there, Amanda, as well. So that natural flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything they want to add about?
I'll jump in on that with Amanda real quick. The flow was a big one at the Virginia training, the way you guys handled that, and being able to watch you and Lynn work as co-facilitators, and then Carol as the client, and see what that dynamic looks like in the physical. Because I think the online trainings, no matter how much you do them, there's a physical aspect, especially of like sense of self, where, and that came up a lot in our group of, we may have identified who was leading the session and who was kind of backing up, but there were times when there was a connection between another facilitator and the person playing the client, and the lead would step back and just allow that to work, because that was the flow of it, right? And you can't always read that sort of stuff, that body language or that connection online as the way that you can in a real session. I mean, unless you're only doing telehealth, then I guess we're probably all doing in-person sessions. So that was a big one. That was a huge part of that I took away from it.
Yeah, I think I want to just, add to the whole thought of the flow and how that's something we, again, feel in our bodies. It's an intuitive, embodied process that when we focus on it at the Seen Through Horses workshops, we share how that feels, so that each participant can feel it in their body, and we can talk about it, and we can kind of break it down a little bit. Now, why did we choose to do that? Because each and every session has a different flow, because it has a different story. And the flow really becomes a huge part of how a person feels held and supported in telling their story. So I'm glad we're talking about that. And I'm also aware that we have a couple of questions. Is that a good time to switch to that, Lynn, or do you have anything else?
Yeah. I think, one of the questions is specifically about the framework. And the ARCH framework is based on first a set of values. And so rather than the typical do things this way or do things that way, there's not specific a structure like that, as far as you have to work only unmounted or mounted or things like that. It's literally values. And value of professional integrity, for instance, is that we practice in our scope of practice. So someone asked about what kind of or what types of facilitators are doing this through ARCH, and we have educators, coaches, mental health professionals, equine specialists, organizational development professionals, pastoral counselors. We have a really nice variety of different perspectives and lenses that are working within their scopes. And as an equine specialist, whatever your scope is, as well as if you need that human side scope, then you work with someone who has that. And so we're based first and foremost on values as our standard. And then second is we have a set of keystones based on our ARCH symbolism. The keystones are a set of questions we ask ourselves as facilitators. It's intended to be a framework to help us create a space where clients feel seen and heard, and where there's an emotional safety where true healing can happen. And so the seen and heard keystones is what they're called. And they're put out as questions, again, because we want to honor your authentic styles. We want you to have that freedom and flexibility to take and what works for you and adds to what you're doing. And so these questions, seen as sense of self, empowering mindset, externalizing story, and natural flow. And there's a set of questions we ask ourselves as facilitators to really help us get into the nuances of how we're facilitating and creating that kind of space where stories really unfold and flow and expand. And we also have the herd keystones, which is specific to incorporating horses, holding space, experiential resonance, and dynamics. And again, a set of questions. And so we're incorporating these tools, this foundation into the work, which allows a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedom, a lot of choice. So it's definitely not one of those like, do it this way, do it that way, do it this way, but it does, we hope that the training really does support you in discovering your authentic style, or adding to what is already your authentic style, and hopefully adding some really amazing tools that expand and enhance the work that you're doing. And I know that's one of the questions we're always asking ourselves is, wait, is this making what we're doing with our clients better? Is this helping the clients process improve, where they maybe engage more and they get deeper, faster, still at their pace? So I'd love to hear if anybody has any more to add on the experience and what the framework is and how it adds to what's already out there in the world.
Well, I think we were talking about flow a lot, and I think that in general, anything we want to do, especially for providing a service or for working on ourselves, or like flow is a certain state that feels good. And we get out of our heads and into our hearts or into our bodies. And I think that's a place where healing and learning takes place. And I think with what you're talking about with the framework and why is the in-person experience important, I feel like if you're learning the framework for the first time, then you have a lot of new ideas that can draw you into your head. And even if you're familiar with it, but deepening, you're opening to new ideas that may be coming off the page or from a facilitator or from the structural part of this. So I think what the in-person experience together with other humans and horses helps us with is, when we're taking on something new, we need time to practice because we have to go back and forth between head and heart. It's not like the intellect and learning something or reading something is bad. It's just going to be a different state than when we're in the flow groove. And so I think it was just making me think of these opportunities to be together allows us to go back and forth and kind of reinforce the new thing that we're learning and bring that in, and then practice a pathway towards getting into the flow and getting the groove with it and seeing what it feels like in our body instead of what it was supposed to feel like on paper. And I think that our time together really, that's something that online can't do quite in the same way, is actually have that felt sense of, oh, I did this, it felt this way, I shared it with somebody, they shared insight, and I did it again, and now I feel it instead of know it.
I miss thinking about, it's a way of being, right? Our framework is a way of being and a way of showing up. And I think Arch has, this framework has really helped me to be a better facilitator, a better person, in having more discipline in how I'm showing up. And discipline might seem like, oh, the structure, it's not a structure in the actual tactic or tool where we have strong tools, but it's not saying every time you do this tool to open to frame a session and you do this to step into the storyboard and you do this. It's not, it's a discipline to being with, and those values that Lynn mentioned, and how are we going to show up and use the framework of seen and heard to, as a facilitator, find out where I'm at so that I can show up better to hold that space for that organic story to be present. One last thing, if you're looking for something that tells you exactly how to do it, this is not the training to come to. I really, if you're looking like, here you go, and it always is done this way, that's going to be frustrating to come to this training.
And I think that's a good point, Lynn, because some people like that. They like a very clear structure, and that's okay. And there's probably trainings out there that will provide that. This is there's a lot of space and freedom to be your unique self, which is, to me, just the best.
I think that's
one of the things. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Amanda.
I was just going to add quickly, one of the things that we talk about is that The story is a mindset. You know, there are times with certain clients where we may talk very candidly about characters and character development, etc. But there are other times where we are just holding it in our minds. So we're asking questions, being curious, but we're not necessarily using the language of story, but we are using the language of the client's story that they're creating. So we're following their story by using their words. But it's a mindset. And it is a disciplined structure, as you were talking about, Lynn Moore. But we can hold it in here instead of it having to be verbalized all the time.
Yeah.
And
Go
I
ahead,
think,
Jake.
yeah, I think, you asked me at the start of this what drew us to Arch, and I think maybe unintentionally we had focused on Arch and what turned out to be a benefit. And one reason why we continue to come back to it is because that mindset of, it's been hard for some of us to not follow a set structure, or to feel like we need to follow a set structure when the flow is actually pushing us a different direction. So that's been a learning curve for us. But the fact that it is a mindset, and it's something that, I think you were saying it, Lynn, that this is how you show up every day. This is how, when you show up to work, you've got the SEEN Keystones in your head. And for us as a residential program where we're not only doing sessions with our clients, but our clients are working with us on the farm. We're doing classes with our clients. We're doing experiences with our clients. They're really a part of our life. So it's really important to maintain that mindset, not 24/7, because if you break out of it, then it makes it kind of weird when you jump back into it in an equine session. So you almost have to maintain those keystones and that framework throughout the workday, because you're with these clients all the time. So for us working with veterans, I don't know if any of the people on this call are in the same position, but that makes Arch extremely valuable for us, because that's where the recentering, I think, helps so much for me, of going to these trainings and just being recentered on where your mind is supposed to be. For me, it's the same way for like horsemanship clinics. My training is better when I go back to these clinics and I recenter. I may not learn a lot of new material. I always do at the Arch trainings and at the clinics, but it might not be earth shattering what I learned, but the recentering of my mind is what is extremely valuable, because we're trying to maintain that mindset 24/7.
I love that. The focus on the mindset, which is really, yeah, first and foremost, like we've been sharing what it is and how to hold that. And as for those of you who have teams of people that you're working with, like Jake does, where you have either one other team member or lots of team members, being able to philosophically learn about how to be in a space of flow and following a story. And what I love, like Lynn was sharing, what I love about what we're doing in Arch that is different from an evolution of things that we've done in the past is, one, the being with. This is very much an engaged, as facilitators and clients, we are engaged with each other in supporting the story that's unfolding. And the other word I really like is collaborative. This is a collaborative approach. We are looking at our clients as the experts, right, in their story, and we're actively working with them and helping to understand and deepen that story. And what does that look like? And if you think about a bunch of story editors sitting around a table working with an author, and it's like, well, let's better understand this character or this premise or this part of the plot is a little confusing still, or how can we better like hone in on the characteristics of the location and the role that that's playing in this whole story. And so we're really working together collaboratively with our clients. And that's what I like to think of as our training too. We work collaboratively with all of you who participate in it. We're all bringing knowledge. We're all bringing skills and perspectives and our stories that add to the whole. And so we talk about in Arch that we're all learners and we're all teachers. And so no, that's the kind of space that we're holding for one another. We're not really looking at this as we're the experts. We all have different levels of experience, and I know I am learning and learning all the time, and so we're here to learn with each other. Yeah, I know we are definitely running out of time. I'd love to just kind of hear from each of you guys. Any other things that really stand out for you, highlights, and if there's any other questions as well, we'd love to address that too. So turn it to anybody else that want to add to highlights about what's different about this training experience for you.
I think one thing we should remember to share is the upcoming opportunities to come to one of these here training workshops. I know Ula and I at Red Horse Center have one coming up April 27th. And we're on the corner of Southwest Michigan, right off of Lake Michigan, a lovely spot. April's a wonderful time of year. And we'd love to see you there. Spots open. And do one of you guys want to share the next one?
I'll speak for the North Carolina, which I think is the next one. We have the gathering in Minnesota, which I can let someone else speak to in June. But July, I think it's 19th and 20th in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina, Central Park. We have spots open. Would love to have you. We've got a beautiful farm here, lots of good food and Southern hospitality. So would love to have you.
And we are April 26th and 27th. Apologies for speaking earlier.
Yeah, you guys can definitely go to arenasforchange.com. And we have an events page. We also have under trainings about the Seen Through Horses training in particular. You can learn more about it there, upcoming events. Yeah, we already have requests here. Arizona, Texas. We are scheduling one in California. We definitely hope to continue to expand where they might be held, and feel free to reach out if you have questions about that. And hopefully join us at one of these locations that are already in place, because the location does matter, and having that experience plays a role in the story. And sometimes getting away to a distant land for your adventure can be really a powerful part of the process. So we hope that this is definitely adding to our goal. Is one of our values is that we bring value to one another each time we meet and connect. And so we are really focused on always evolving and learning and expanding and trying new ideas. And so every experience is a very different experience. So yeah, it's it, Fred.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to that for a second, because I think people having an understanding of why there are fewer and why they're in certain places may help deepen the understanding. Is that along the way, as this got created, we really saw the value in hosting these at either one of our places or very closely held relationship and partnership, because it really helps us demonstrate the Arch way and the mindset in its best scenario, versus doing a bunch of them and dotting them across the country, but always adapting to new space and new horses and new partners and people. There's a time and place for both models, but we are choosing to have fewer of these places and with teams and herds that we know really well. And so if you're new, so we're asking people to kind of travel and come to us while we have them at a few locations around the country throughout the year. We are encouraging that, hey, perhaps participants traveling is better than us taking this on the road and trying to do 30 a year or something like that. So it's a value-based, qualitative experience, mindset-driven thing. And we hope you'll understand that and come visit us.
And I think just to build on that, it's a journey. And as soon as you commit to coming to a workshop training, that's when the story starts. As soon as you sign up, you start anticipating. And the journey too, I can tell you, the journey to South Africa to co-facilitate that workshop training was an adventure. So yes, it is travel. Yes, it is time. But we see it as part of the whole process, and hope, like Fred said, that you understand that and can work with us on that.
And we also offer private trainings where, you know, we will come to you if you have a staff that you want everybody trained, and or you want everybody to have an experience together. That can be a really valuable way to go as well.
I'll say for my team, I think we took 9 people up there to Healing Strides, and you know, to pull that many people off of a working operation is sometimes a little logistically challenging, but we were able to make it swing that time. And I know for all of us, it was more of a retreat. Honestly, it was a very immersive experience where, you know, the better part of our normal day-to-day responsibilities took a pause, and we were able to really rest. We were doing a lot of work mentally and emotionally, but in the sense that, you know, you are able to process some of those emotions that you've been working through while you're there, and you are able to better yourself and recenter your mind. It really was just a beautiful, immersive retreat vacation in a lot of ways. So I would say the getting away from it and the journey to the destination has its own set of benefits beyond, you know, beyond what might be expected, but just internally and emotionally, there's a real benefit to just taking a break from the normal and focusing on your mental health and how you can help other people.
Yeah, love that. And thank you, Jake, for all you're doing to support your team in such a way as that. I know that's quite an investment and says a lot about what you guys are doing in your organization as well. So, and yeah, I love that you're saying that it feels like a retreat. And so we've kind of like, if you'll see our marketing and our labeling, we keep changing our wording because like, well, it's a training because we're learning some skill sets that really help us, but then it's a workshop because it's really interactive, and then we're really hands-on and we're really learning with each other and trying ideas, and it's like a retreat because we're getting all this personal growth in it. And so then we're like, it's a professional training workshop retreat, but that's kind of long. So then I just kind of switch around the words. So, but just know that we are very thoughtful about the kind of space that we're hoping to create and hold for all of us who attend, and that we want you to feel welcome and supported. And we're all individually accessible. You can reach out at arenasforchange.com as well. And Arch, our online platform where you get to learn with the online courses as well as the membership community that way of people around the world, is again very interactive. You can private message people. There's just a lot of ways that we believe in wanting to just be here with one another and support each other in our learning journeys, and just trying to be the best we can be professionally and personally. So I know we need to start wrapping up here. Is there any last minute thoughts from each of you guys to share as we close our time together?
I just look forward to seeing all of you at upcoming workshop training retreat. One of the biggest compliments I think I've heard at the last one, I'm just thinking about that, is that people were inspired and were saying, after these 2 days, I feel like I'm in a much better place to go back and to actually help my clients. And I mean, that's why we all do this, right? Or at least I think, right? We want to help people. We want to make a difference in the world. And to hear people feel like they are empowered to do that they're in another space and they're inspired. And we have a community that you're not alone. And that was really great to hear. And that's something we hear across the work that we're doing in Arch.
Yeah, and I'll just add, Jake, you're saying how it refocuses and recenters you on what's important really when you go to a training retreat workshop like that. And like we are getting ready to host our 3rd training here at Red Horse Center in Michigan, and we have a person who have been to all three of them. Julie is coming again, and she comes to continue to get inspired, to continue to focus on what's important about the facilitation, and she has her own growth moments, and it's not just a one and done. It is about building community and continuing to get inspired ourselves and continue to grow and learn.
And I think it helps us connect with our teams which includes horse and human. So I'll reiterate, I don't think you need to be a horse professional or even facilitate with horses to come and have this be a valuable experience and develop some great useful skills. However, if you are a horse professional, especially if you're a horse professional on a team facilitating with horses, I think that what we found, again, sort of like Ula leaning into things we've heard from people as feedback, is that it seems to open up an opportunity to connect to your horses when you get home with a fresh perspective, and maybe the portal being opened a little differently. And I do think that can be colleagues that are humans or colleagues that are horse and human, but I think it opens up the experience, and all of it helps open up space for those connections to get stronger through listening.
All right.
So looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, well, I know I leave energized every time I get to participate in one of the SEEN Through Horses arch training workshop retreats. and energized to be here with you guys. Thank you guys for staying with us and having this conversation, and feel free to reach out. We'd love to have individual conversation, answer any questions, or see how this could support you and your team members as well. So thank you guys so much, and look forward to our next behind the scenes. So see you guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.